And Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Egypt, as you go toward Zoar. Then Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated from each other. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent even as far as Sodom. But the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful against Yahweh. Genesis chapter 13, verse 10 through 13, Exegesis. The choice of sight over faith. Lot chose his land based upon the external representation of the land as opposed to actually looking at the internal spiritual aspect of it. Lot's decision was made by sight, not faith. What he saw appealed to his senses, lush plains, abundance, prosperity, yet his choice ignored the moral and spiritual corruption of the land. This is timeless warning. What appears fruitful to the eyes may be deadly to the soul. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of unalivement. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 12. Like Eve in Eden, Lot saw what looked good, the external representation, but he didn't ask whether it was good in the eyes of Yahweh, the internal representation. Lot journeyed east, symbolism of separation from Yahweh. Then Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east. Genesis chapter 13, verse 11. Throughout Scripture, it's repetitious that people move east as they separate from Yahweh. Moving eastward often represents turning away from the presence of Yahweh. Adam and Eve were driven east of Eden. Cain went out from the presence of Yahweh and dwelt east of Eden. At Babel, men migrated eastward before rebelling against Edom, before Elohim. Now Lot journeys east, symbolically distancing himself from the spiritual covering of Abraham, the man of faith. 1 John chapter 2, verse 15 says, "Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him." The subtle descent toward compromise. This is important. Genesis chapter 13, verse 12. Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent even as far as Sodom. Notice how Lot is not in Sodom. He's not at the gate of Sodom yet. He pitches his tent right near Sodom. Lot didn't move into Sodom immediately. He pitched his tent near it. Compromise begins by settling close to sin, then gradually getting comfortable with it. Later, Lot will be found sitting in the gate of Sodom, fully absorbed into its culture. This progression mirrors how sin works. It seduces the believer step by step until the line between faith and worldliness blurs. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33 says, "Do not be deceived. Evil company corrupts good habits. In the same way that iron sharpens iron, well, evil company corrupts good habits. One brings edification, one can bring cannibalization, or the breaking down of it." The wickedness of Sodom. But the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful against Yahweh. Genesis chapter 13, verse 13. This verse reveals the moral state of Lot's new home. The word exceedingly signifies fullness. Their sin had reached its height. This environment would later corrupt Lot's family and cost him nearly everything. In the same way, when Yahweh destroyed the earth, Genesis chapter 6, verse 5, he looked upon the earth and he saw that every intent was only evil continually in the thought of their imagination. It was the same in Sodom. The word exceedingly signifies the fullness of the capacity of their sin. Sodom's sin was not just immorality, it was pride, self-indulgence, and the neglect of the poor. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 49 elaborates on this. "Look, this was the iniquity of your sister Sodom. She and her daughter had pride, fullness of food, and abundance of idleness. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy." People always want to point out the homosexuality of Sodom. That was not why Yahweh Elohim destroyed Sodom. It was only a part of why he destroyed Sodom. The Bible itself said that they had pride, fullness of food, abundance of idleness, and they neglected the poor and the needy. So Lot chose Sodom without taking into consideration the moral condition of the inhabitants. He moved his family to a place where the influence would be against their reverence for Elohim. He thought to secure advantages, but he only invited trouble, loss, and sorrow. Ellen G. White, Patriarchs and Prophets, page 133 through 134. Many are still making a similar mistake. They are choosing to live in places where sin reigns, thinking to maintain their integrity. But the influence of the world too often overcomes them, and they learn its ways. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 134. Lot's story is a warning, but also a call to wisdom. Yahweh allows us to choose, but he longs for us to see beyond appearances, that which is external. True prosperity isn't found in the well-watered plains of this world, but in the promises of Elohim. Even when our choices lead us near danger, Yeshua still intercedes for his people, just as Abraham would later intercede for Lot, as we're going to see when we get down to Genesis chapter 18. Through divine mercy, Elohim rescues those who cry out, even from the cities of destruction. Job chapter 36 verse 16 elaborates, "For he delivers the poor in their affliction, and opens their ears in oppression." Genesis chapter 13 verse 10 through 13, Exegesis.